This last episode of Dynamite was probably the best episode in a long time. As far as the cohesiveness from beginning to end, definitely probably the best one. Um, Everything led up into the big show at All In. So this is what people wanted from day one when it come to AEW for the last several months to the last couple of years, really. It's just, coherent storytelling. And, they seem to be on the right path. Hopefully, cross our fingers, they're on the right path to doing what the hell they should be doing or should have been doing. I mean, it's so many places to go. Let's start with MJF. So it ended the show with MJF turning heel. Some may say predictably, but some things is okay if it's predictable or not. Is it the right move? The moves is what's important, not the predictability. So in this case, yes, it was predictable that MJF was going to turn back into the scumbag that we all love to hate. And he did that by demolishing and eviscerating Daniel Garcia at the end of the match. After the match, Daniel Garcia in a hard fought loss, which is pretty much that's the kid's whole, I don't call him a kid, he's 25 years old, but that's his whole gimmick at this point. He puts in a good effort and he comes up short. But that's kind of in a way it's kind of Daniel Bryan's thing, If you think about it, Daniel Bryan has had so many banger matches in AEW, but he hasn't really won the big one. I mean, he hasn't won really any titles. No singles ones, not to my knowledge at least. So it's kind of funny. I mean, I think that's his favorite wrestler, so he's kind of in a way on the same trajectory as far as career paths is concerned. But yeah, Daniel Garcia got demolished. It's clearly to put him over as a babyface even more when he comes back from his hiatus after the beatdown. Um, MJF is back into rare form. He's, back into insulting the crowd and getting in the face of the crowd like he's gonna fight him. Oh, the whole nine. This is what you want from your villain, and you need a super villain. You got your superhero and Will Ospreay. Now you need your Lex Luthor character in MJF. So this was just the perfect thing to do as you got those two guys eventually colliding with one another at All In. You got to have the super villain versus the super hero. I mean the super hero. And again, perfectly executed, done well. Now, I wrote down you got Hangman Page coming back. Badass comeback. Real badass. Like Hangman is not even a heel or a baby face. He's like a tweener. He's on his real stone cold shit right now. He came back with a new theme song. The theme music is like this. It's got a real symphony type orchestra to it. Like, when it comes on, something serious is about to happen. And yo, he's back on the path, back on the war path, back to Swerve Strickland apparently. So, he beat Jeff Jarrett. We don't have to go into the details of the match. I mean, it's Jeff Jarrett. I know some people out there strangely is trying to give the argument for Jeff Jarrett winning the Owen for some reason. It's like, come on, he's Jeff Jarrett. Let's not forget. He's the chainsaw massacre champion or whatever the hell that match was. Don't forget who he is. He's Jeff Jarrett. It should have been a squash match, honestly. I mean, the match went longer than it should have gone. Hangman should have came in there and destroyed Jeff Jarrett. So, but they made it compelling. They allowed the crowd to get involved in it. So that's why it went a little longer. So I'm not mad at that. And of course, the right person went over, Hangman. I mean, who else? It's got to be Hangman. So he's going to be on his way to facing Jay White. I believe that's the next Dynamite. I love Jay White, but story wise, it's probably got to be Hangman. But if Hangman wins, how do they make Jay White lose? Is the question. It's got to make him look strong. There's got to be some kind of weird finish, in my opinion. He can't take any more really bad losses as you continue to try to build him up after you continue to screw his character up. So I'm hoping that it's not as bad. um they book it a certain way that makes him look at least strong. But the right guy is Hangman. The right guy for this whole to win this whole thing is, in my opinion, is Hangman. It's got to be Hangman. He got to finish it off. I know he's 0-2 and 1 against Swerve, but every single time he went against Swerve, it was some shenanigans. So, yes, it would do Swerve good to beat him straight up in their blood feud to end it for sure and for good. So, I'm all for that. And, that would have to take him going against Daniel Bryan in the end. Everyone thinks Daniel Bryan is going to be in the finals regardless. Either or, whatever they pick. I mean, AEW's in a great booking situation. They could pick Hangman because the story behind that against Swerve, and they could pick Daniel Bryan because the story behind that with him wrapping up his career in the ring, and for him to go against Swerve again because he did beat Swerve, and Swerve hasn't beaten him yet. So there's a lot of story with that. And then Wrestle Dream after the All In pay per views and All Out 2 weeks after that, Wrestle Dream is going to be in Tacoma, Washington, home of Swerve Strickland. So we got to see how it plays out. I'm not against either decision. They booked themselves in a very favorable situation as far as whichever direction they ultimately go. Now to the other great part about the show, and it's Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker's interaction. So Britt came out first, did her promo, talked about her last several months, and basically gave a lot of answers to a lot of fans' questions as to what's been going on with her. Have you been injured? Have you been just sitting at home? What's the deal? So she came out. She was very raw and candid with the fans and telling everyone at home, like, look, I had some health situations. I had a torn labrum. I had some herniated disc situation. And oh, yeah, by the way, I had like a mild stroke or something. So, yeah, she had some situations that required her to kind of sit down and take the sidelines for a while. But now she's cleared and she's ready to go after Mercedes. Now, Mercedes came out, pulled up to the arena. The EVPs, the Young Bucks met her outside, gave her a welcome, talking about, we're going to celebrate your, you know, championship win. And then she went down the ring. And I love the way they had the ring fill up with all the celebration stuff while Britt Baker was still in the ring. Like they said, it was almost as if she wasn't there. And that's when they went into cutting a promo, and it was crazy. It was exactly what we love about Mercedes. When she's a heel, she is top tier. She's not so great on the mic in general, but as a baby face, man, she is cringe. And I love me some Mercedes slash Sasha, but yeah, she's just her best at her heel when she's a heel. And it was great timing to turn her heel. And I always was under the impression that her character, her Mercedes Monet character, is intentionally over the top. She came in. I mean, look at her. She's got all these bright colors, the bright colored hair. Like Sasha Banks wasn't like this. It's like an over the top version of Sasha Banks, which is just an over the top version of who Mercedes really is. So to see her just take this character and just turn it up a whole nother level, I think it's intentionally she's intentionally being cringe from the beginning through the whole Willow Nightingale feud and all of that. She was a heel in that feud as well. So I think this has been a little crafty on her part. This has been more planned out in my opinion, because you got to remember when Mercedes came in, the producer lady that they hired that used to work for the WWE, they hired her along with Mercedes and they have a relationship. And I think now knowing that Mercedes has full control, creative control, and pretty much her own producer, that they're in the lab working on ideas to get her character over and put over other characters. So they'll be interested to see how this whole thing plays out. But her and Britt Baker, oh, let's go. Sign me up. It's gonna be great. Other than that, I mean, it was a solid show all throughout. You got the blood and guts that they're trying to build up to. The EVPs, the elite, they're trying to get Hangman Page as their fifth guy. no one really knows who's gonna fill in the AEW side of it. Right now you got Mark Briscoe in there. I like Mark Briscoe. More spotlight on him. He could probably be the new Eddie Kingston, fill in for that Eddie Kingston role as Eddie begins to he continues his healing throughout the year because he's gonna be out for the entire year with his knee injury. So Mark Briscoe filling in for that crazy Eddie uh uh Kingston role will be good. So other than that, getting Swerve Strickland in the match would be smart because he's your world champion, but you want to also protect him because that match is so dangerous. Uh, s- so you'll see how that goes. He wasn't on this week's show either. You know, how the show was so compact and how cohesive it was. I'm not really that upset that Swerve wasn't on the show. I had my shirt ready and everything, but he didn't, he wasn't booked for the show. So now that we know he'll be on the next week's show, it'll be interesting to see how the blood and guts thing ultimately, you know, comes to fruition. Who's going to be in the match against the Elite? So other than that, man, yo, it was a solid show, man. I don't know if this is the beginning of restoring the feeling or not, but it's definitely a hell of a start. And I'm definitely interested to see this weekend's collision, and definitely see next week's Dynamite. I mean, everything is all leading up to All In. They're doing a great job. Continue to do the great job that you're doing, Tony. I don't know who's been talking to you lately or whatever the case may be. Keep doing it. Keep going.